is real when the story stops. Love, lies, and fairy tales taught me how to hold wrong, how to mistake misery for depth. Love, lies, and fairy tales made me fluent in almost safe, almost happy, almost loved. Love, lies, and fairy tales still visit sometimes, but I don't let them stay long enough to rearrange me. I don't hate the stories anymore. I just read them differently. I keep the parts that breathe. I let the rest dissolve. I close the book and I choose what comes next. It didn't hurt at first, that was the warning I missed. Everything felt gentle, everything felt safe. Every word landed softly, every promise spoken calm. I mistook reassurance isn't love, it's leverage. Shouldn't feel like restraint. Came rehearsed, every doubt felt like a crime. I stay quiet when they spoke, learned the rules, learned when to nod. Told myself this weight was purpose, that the fear meant I belonged. They said trust what you're given, I said nothing, stayed in line. It felt safer not to question than to stand here on my own. Fear doesn't feel like faith when you finally say it out loud. Obedience starts to rot when it's dressed up as love. Ravens don't pray, they remember every cost, every scar, every name we don't mention. Ravens don't pray, they don't ask for forgiveness. They survive what was done and don't call it salvation. I watch people break politely, smiling through the damage done, calling suffering a lesson, calling silence being strong. Every promise had conditions, every hope had walls around it. I kept losing parts of myself just to stay on the right side of right. I didn't leave because I hated it, I left because I couldn't breathe, because staying meant becoming someone I didn't recognize. just stopped asking them to save me. They never tell you what it costs when they offer you the crown. Only how it looks from far away. They called it leadership, called it responsibility. I called it disappearing slowly, politely. I watched compromise stack up like something temporary until I realized this was the structure now. Jade doesn't rust, it remembers. Every spine it taught. How when the world holds its breath. I didn't leave in anger, I didn't leave in flames. I left in the quiet between stain and shame. Not brave enough to burn it down, not weak enough to stay. Just tired of explaining why I felt this way. I stood at the edge of habit, where comfort starts to ache, where every reason to remain felt thinner than escape. Freedom doesn't arrive loudly, it opens a door and waits. Night wings at dusk, that's where I learned to move. Not running from the dark, not chasing the truth. Night wings at dusk, no promise, no plan, just choosing the space where I still can stand. Night wings at dusk, no name, just air and direction. The day didn't miss me, the night didn't claim me. I stopped needing permission to be what I am. No labels, no banners, no one keeping score. Just the sound of my breathing and something more. I learned the shape of silence without mistaking it for fear. Learned that peace isn't loud, but it's clear. Not everything lost is abandoned. Some things are released. Between who I was and who I'm not yet, I found something honest I could live with. Between goodbye and arrival, I became real. Night wings at dusk, I belong to the crossing where the past lets go and nothing is watching. Night wings at dusk, I move unclaimed, not hidden, not I didn't disappear. I finally arrived. They told me pain meant something, so I tried to believe it for a long to smile through the damage and keep my place. They praised endurance, not healing. They loved the wound as long as it behaved. Every scar was a lesson, every silence a test. I kept mistaking survival for holiness. When suffering becomes currency, someone is always getting paid. I am Saint Stephen's Bane. I won't bleed beautifully. I won't make my breaking look holy. Saint Stephen's Bane. I take my body back. I refuse the myth that pain is a path. I am Saint Stephen's Bane. They said this makes you stronger, but never asked how it feels to carry someone else's faith like it's your responsibility. They taught me to stay grateful for the damage done, called survival, a blessing called silence, love. I started asking questions they didn't prepare for, started noticing who benefited. If belief needs my pain to survive, it doesn't deserve my faith. I take my name back from your scripture. I take my body back from your myth. I am not your lesson. I am not your proof. I am not required to suffer I am Saint Stephen's Bane. I speak what was buried. I am the story where suffering was crowned. Saint Stephen's Bane, your saint breaks here on my refusal. You can keep your martyr. I'm keeping myself. Nothing sacred falls suddenly. It leans, it fractures, it awaits. Long before the first flame rises, the truth is already awake. I felt the cracks beneath vow. Every answer took longer, every promise felt thin somehow. We kept holding it together long after it stopped holding us, calling collapse patience, calling fear trust. Stone remembers every lie, it was built to protect. Every wall learned silence before it learned regret. You don't notice the weight until it starts to cave. You don't question belief until it asks you to stay. Cathedrals of fire, let them burn. What was built on control won't return. Cathedrals of fire, no angels, no signs, just walls coming down in real time. Cathedrals of fire, truth in the flame. If it couldn't survive, it deserved the change. I stayed longer than I should have, because leaving felt like blame, like I'd failed something ancient by refusing the shame. Every doubt was met with scripture, every question met with tone. Hold the line, they kept saying, while the ground turned to stone. I watched faith become habit, watched hope turn procedural, watched meaning get smaller just to keep it simple. If belief needs silence to stay alive, it's already broken, it just hasn't collapsed. I don't need another answer, I've memorized them all. I don't need forgiveness for letting a lie fall. If heaven only opens after damage is done, then I choose the fire, I choose the run. Let it fall, let it end, let the truth speak without defense. Cathedrals of fire, clear the ground, nothing holy survives being unsound. Cathedrals of fire, I'm still here, breathing in ash instead of fear. Cathedrals of fire, this is release, not destruction, but honesty. When the smoke finally lifted, there was space where fear had been. No voice left to tell me who I had to be. From the ruins I rise, unnamed, not forgiven, not condemned. And for the first time, that feels enough. Doesn't explain itself, it just watches and to notice me. When angels forget, I remember myself. I become the hand I needed. When angels forget, the ground still holds, and that's enough to stay. Holiness is a collapse. I used to think this was forever. Not because it felt right, but because it never stopped. Same conversations, different nights, same apologies. New phrasing. We kept restarting the story like repetition might fix it. I called it loyalty because leaving felt cruel. Called it patience because waiting felt safer than truth. Every warning came quietly, every doubt felt selfish. I learned how to stay busy so I wouldn't have to decide if it doesn't get better, but only and that was enough. They never sound dangerous. That's how they work. Every promise felt considered, every word chosen carefully. Nothing was ever said outright. Nothing was ever accidental. They spoke in reassurance, in reasonable tones, made doubt sound ungrateful, made questions feel rude. I wanted to believe the words because they were elegant, because truth is harder when it's plain. If it feels convincing before it feels true, pay attention. Silver tongues sell comfort, they don't mean harm, they mean control. Silver tongues don't threaten, they persuade until you agree. Silver tongues sound gentle while they decide for you. I ignored the pauses between sentences, ignored how often my voice disappeared. Every concern was answered without being heard. Every boundary softened until it vanished. Turns out honesty is rarely charming. It doesn't shine, it stays. If the truth keeps shifting to stay acceptable, it isn't growing, it's hiding. I stopped debating tensions and started watching patterns. Stopped asking what was meant and noticed what was done. Clarity didn't arrive suddenly, it settled in. Quiet, Silver tongues don't own me. I hear the silence now. Silver tongues lost their power when I stopped negotiating my words. Silver tongues can't follow once you leave the room. The truth didn't shout, it waited. And when I listened, everything changed. far enough away. We built this on agreement, on things we didn't question. Smiled through the compromises, called them necessary. They said this is how it works, said everyone does it. But normal doesn't mean honest, it just means familiar. Every brick was placed carefully, every truth filed down, until the wall stood straight and nothing real could breathe. If it only stands when no one speaks, it's already fallen. A kingdom of lies still feels like home when you never lived anywhere else. A kingdom of lies doesn't collapse at once, it does it promise control? Repeat the words, hold the shape, and everything stays still. They said this keeps you safe, said don't change the order, but safety started feeling like a cage with a room. I memorized the pattern until it replaced instinct. Forgot what choice felt like outside the circle.
Only holds when you open. It isn't magic, it's fear.
This is the last spell I'm breaking, the final word I won't repeat. This is the last spell keeping me here. I step outside it and breathe. Every warning sounded ancient, every threat disguised as care. They said chaos waits beyond this, like freedom was a flaw. But control doesn't protect you, it just delays the cost. I felt myself fading to keep the structure intact. You don't lose yourself. Suddenly you trade pieces slowly. I don't need another symbol, I don't need another sign. If power needs performance, I'm done performing. Let the circle break uneven, let the words fade wrong. I'd rather face uncertainty than live This is the last spell I'm answering. No more echoes, no return. This is the last spell, and when it ends, I'm still here. Magic didn't leave me. I left the illusion. Some truths don't disappear, they soften. understanding without needing to return. I don't fight the echoes, I let them pass. They don't own me anymore. What was hidden served its time. I walk forward unveiled. Echoes of the veil grow faint when you stop answering them. Echoes of the veil lose power. They remind
What was embrace the past?
I stepped out of it. This isn't a promise. I've been enough to know the shape of it. Learned how to adapt without disappearing. Strength used to mean endurance, meant holding longer. Now it means stopping before I'm gone. I don't need to prove pain to justify survival. I don't need to suffer to be real. Resilience isn't silence, it's refusal. I will not break to make this easier. I will not shrink to be allowed. I will not break for your comfort. I choose myself now. I stopped explaining my limits to people who benefited. Stopped apologizing for clarity. I don't owe anyone my exhaustion. I don't owe history my future. Strength that cost you everything isn't strength. I'm not unscarred. I'm unloved. There's a difference. I stand here intact, not untouched, but whole. garden. I held. Perfection. Never survives being seen up close. I believed in the image because it was easier. Good intentions, clean outcomes, but halos crack quietly under expectation. Holiness doesn't fail loudly, it fractures. I watch goodness become pressure, watch kindness turn conditional, watch standards rise while compassion shrink. If it can survive scrutiny, it was never pure.
Cracks in the halo, let the light through.
Not everything broken is ruined.
Cracks in the halo,
Prove it was real, not flawless, just honest. it chose me like it always does. Static in the wiring, alone, wake in the light. Every thought circles the same train, slow to liberate. I keep thinking of Nirvana, not the sound, the absence. There's a softness to the damage when you live with it long enough. Edges round themselves off. Pain learns how to whisper. I learned how to stay upright with fractures hidden under skin. How to smile like a function. How to speak without saying anything. Memory isn't loud anymore. It just waits like dust on a shelf. Like a name I no longer answer to. I wanted release, but settled for quiet. I wanted truth, but learned endurance. I keep thinking of Nirvana, like a room without a way, like the moment before feeling decides to come back. I keep thinking of Nirvana, not peace, not light, just the end of needing. I have loved in increments, measured and controlled, nothing wasted, nothing forgiven. There were nights I counted breaths to prove I was still here. There were mornings that arrived without permission. All became a discipline, not a promise, not a cure, just a habit I refuse to break. I didn't fall apart, I thinned. I didn't disappear, I faded correctly. I keep thinking of Nirvana, where wanting finally stops, where hunger forgets my name and silence doesn't ask questions. I keep thinking of Nirvana, like a place I almost reached, then turned away from because I wasn't finished There's a violence in restraint. No one talks about the damage you don't do. Still leaves marks. I became excellent at remaining, at choosing less, at mistaking numbness for control. Even now I catalog the cracks like they belong to someone else. Like this body isn't evidence. If this is living, I've done it well. assumes its place. I don't leave. I don't arrive. I stand thinking of Nirvana and choosing another minute. There is a pressure in the quiet tonight, like something leaning its weight against the frame, waiting to be acknowledged. I recognize the sound even before it speaks. I learned the architecture of restraint, how to keep doors looking closed while the hinges loosen silently. The pressure eases, not relief, just clarity. The door remains. What changes is who's willing to cross it. Learned our breathing before we spoke. Ash settled into corners like it intended to stay. The room held still, as if listening, as if waiting for us to become smaller. This place was shaped for remaining. Low ceilings, familiar air, walls that remembered hands before they remembered names. You called it safety, I called it enough. Neither of us noticed how quickly enough became the limits. I learned to sit upright without resting, to eat without hunger, to sleep without a rival. Comfort has weight when it leans too long. Shelter can press inward without raising its voice. Earth and home, soft hands, hidden teeth. We made a refuge out of restraint and called it love. There are marks you don't see until the light changes the way warmth learns to dim and silence. The way quiets will becomes instructional. You learned how to touch without asking, how to keep closeness from becoming need. I fed on stillness, you fed on certainty. Neither of us named what was missing. If this was safety, why did it hurt to breathe? If this was love, why did it require discipline? Earth and home kept us alive, not intact, just close enough to confuse survival with belonging. There is a violence in being contained, not broken, just carefully reduced. I stayed because leaving felt like betrayal of the shape we had already agreed to. don't shout, they smile. Teeth showing, nothing said. You never touched me, still took everything. Some mouths don't bite, they wait until you prove you're willing. There's a cruelty in patience when the outcome is already teeth showing, truth intact. I step forward and call it courage. I don't remember your face, only the shape it left behind. Night is generous. It lends silence and asks nothing back. The dark forgives almost anything. We negotiated with shadows and thought we'd won. Everything felt manageable after midnight. Your hands were careful, like restraint meant kindness, like delay meant mercy. I believe the quiet because it wanted me to. There's a softness tonight that lies convincingly. It didn't hurt until morning. It didn't hurt until morning. knows exactly where to stand. I renamed it again. Something softer, something survivable. It corrected me every time. This is an appetite. This is memory asking to be There are parts of the body that remember first. The mouth, the wrist, the places you don't defend. I fed on absence, on what stayed just out of reach. On the promise that restraint would matter. Delay isn't virtue, it's a negotiation. You always this is an appetite. This is memory, forgetting how to stop. If I sound calm, don't trust it. Stillness is just hunger, holding its breath. I am not cured, I am careful. There is a difference. before I do. It carries the weight of things that don't need explaining. A familiar pressure against the chest, like memory learning how to breathe. The air tastes older after dark, like something has been waiting all day for permission. dark doesn't follow me, it recognizes me, and for a moment that feels like belonging. Normal is a performance with too many witnesses. I studied the behavior, copied the poses, learned where to stand. When nothing was required of me, I kept my voice even, my posture apologetic. I said the right things in the right order. Normal rewarded me with distance. There is effort in pretending not to want. I was trying to be normal, trying not to reach, trying not to remember what comes naturally. I was trying to be normal and failing quietly every day. Hunger doesn't disappear, it waits for the performance to end. I smiled through conversations that never asked who I was becoming. I learned the language of restraint fluently at cost. You can hide instinct, but it keeps score. I was trying to be normal, trying not to feel, trying not to lean towards the If this is health, why does it feel like erasure? If this is control, why am I still counting?
I don't want balance.
I want truth. Normal never fit. It just